Oh, is it time? Oh, God, sorry. How did that, where did the computers are throwing me off?
One for each eyeball. Welcome, everybody, to a regular meeting of the San Miguel County Board of Commissioners. This is the wrong agenda. It is a special meeting. And I've got the June 3rd agenda. I'd love to swap that out. Anyways, I'm going to be in the future.
Does anyone have a power cord I could borrow? Sorry.
Yeah.
Got it. Oh, no, that's okay. You're gonna have to go. That's, well, maybe it'll, okay.
Okay. Back to today. This is a special meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. And it is just after 2 o'clock, and I'll call the meeting to order with all three commissioners present, as well as staff in the room and some members of the public, and folks on Zoom. Welcome, everybody. Glad you're here. We will open our meeting today with a moment of silence for grounding and gratitude. I'll get the microphone closer so you can hear my silence. Thank you, everybody. We are lucky to be here. Commissioners, do you have any changes or suggested deletions for the agenda?
No, sir.
None for me.
All right, Mr. Biggs, Laura, is there anything that we need to discuss regarding our agenda?
I think we are set to go.
We will proceed to item number 6, public comments for items not on the agenda. Does anybody have something on their mind that they want to bring to the board? See John Waptronsky, sometimes he has good ideas out of the blue, but not today. I'm not seeing any hands up, so we will continue on our merry way to public health and environment.
Recording in progress.
And we are recording item 7A. The commissioners are now sitting as the San Miguel County Board of Public Health, and we are going to be discussing a consideration of a variance request for on-site waste treatment system design for lots 5 and 6, lot M in Ophir. Parcel ID number is lengthy. And the ownership is Mr. Seamus. Welcome, Seamus. Good to see you.
Thanks,
We've
Commissioner.
got Mr. Kevin Shaney, who is our environmental health specialist, sitting at the table, and Kevin will open this public hearing with a presentation. We'll have opportunity for commissioner questions. We'll then hear from the applicant. We'll have an opportunity for commissioner questions, and then we will hear from the public if anyone would care to comment. Kevin.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the time, especially on today, the special session. I just wanted to take a quick moment to introduce Seamus Croak. He's been applying for a on-site wastewater treatment system. He submitted a set of professional engineer submitted plans to go for a permit. Through our review engineer process, it was determined that the proposed system could not fit safely on the proposed parcel, and that's why we're here today. We're going to go into the details of what the request is and what Mr. Croak is asking for. The memo was provided in your read ahead packets as well as the slide deck. And now we're just going to walk through step by step. It follows the regulatory intent, the requirements of our variance process. And in our presentation, we're just trying to do the best we can to address each one of those requirements for a variance, and then open it up to whatever Mr. Croak has to say and the commissioner's questions, and then we have a sample motion. So that's general framework for now. If we could switch over to the slide deck, that would be awesome. That's okay. So as we discussed last week, what we're talking about is property line reduction authority. And what that refers to is when we issue a septic permit in San Miguel County, every component of that septic system has to be 10 feet away from the property lines. There are certain parcels, like the one we're going to be discussing today, where that is not possible to put a safely operable system on such a small lot. So the request or variance to establish regulations is reducing that 10-foot property line setback to 2 feet, correct? Correct, down to 2 feet. So we will detail those on the plans of what the proposed system, location, site pictures, design. And then again, I'd like to reiterate that this was a PE, professionally designed engineered plans, and it was reviewed by our contracted county engineer to determine that this variance would be the best route forward. Thank you, Megan. Here's the information. I think I covered most of that in our preamble. The design engineers, Jonathan Batson of Cimarron Engineering, Drew Ruderman of Buckhorn Engineering was the one that conducted the review. It is in Ophir. It is a little under 1/4 of an acre. Notable to this lot, as we'll see on future slides, it has private property on 3 different sides. So it is fairly hemmed in. Next slide, please. The proposal is to ask to reduce that 10-foot property line setback to 2 feet. And I think we'll get the exact. Quick orientation of what we're looking at. This is going to be in West Ophir, lots 5 and 6, Block M, Ophir. And this is right to the north of Granite Avenue as you're leaving West Ophir, going to East Ophir. Next slide, please. I snuck up there and took a couple pictures. What I'm trying to show with these pictures, and you can see the property line stakes. That shed is really the only structure that was on the property. It's going to be removed to support this development project. But what I'm trying to show here by taking these pictures, at the left-hand photo is the easternmost property line, and the right-hand photo is the leftmost property line. And you can see I'm just straddling the existing 2-track driveway. It is a very narrow lot to accommodate a building, a driveway, and a septic system. That's why we're here today. Next slide, please. 10 feet to 2 feet. That will allow a safe soil treatment area. When we're discussing components of on-site wastewater treatment systems, the line, the Schedule 40 pipe, the septic tank, the grinder pump, all these other components take up a very small amount of space, whereas the leach field or soil treatment area, or STA, you might see it in other notifications, it's going to take up the largest amount. So when we're asking for reduction, it's to accommodate that relatively large square footage to safely treat wastewater coming out of the residence. Next slide, please. This is the proposed plan from Jonathan Batson out of Cimarron Engineering. The red in the middle image really details that the soil treatment area cannot be placed at any other location than this immediate southwest edge of the property. I mentioned the driveway. We do not put any components of a septic system underneath the driveway unless we can absolutely help it. With the topography, the slight angle, and the very narrow lot, that wasn't going to be possible. So you might see this image and say, hey, what's all this open space on the right-hand side? There's a driveway there. We can't touch any part of the septic system to the driveway because we don't want vehicles driving over the septic system. You might imagine that would be no bueno. So next slide, please. we had a 20-day public noticing requirement that was met. And then Mr. Croak, on his own accord, his own money, sent out certified mail to all property owners within 500 feet. That is another requirement of our variance process. In a place like Ophir, that's a lot of mailing to do. And to date, we have not gotten any public comment back from those mailings. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, correct. I did have direct correspondence with my neighbor to the west where this setback would be encroaching on, as well as the town of Ophir for the south, which is the right of way. And both of them were supportive.
yeah. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. It went through the correct communications, came to me, and then it went up to our review engineer. And again, that's where a big part of the demand signal comes for this meeting today, is through our contracted review engineer. So very quickly, our review standards for variances. You, as the Board of Health, may approve a variance. It cannot be granted by staff, regardless of the staff's expertise or lack thereof. It requires a vote of publicly elected officials because it is a variance to regulation. Again, approval of this variance must be based on the evidence that we're presenting today. It would not be injurious to public health. That's why my job is not in the building department, it's in the public health department. And our job is to ensure that the system we're proposing is going to be safe for decades to come, to not only the homeowner, but to the town, surrounding community, and all involved. Next slide, please. So we do not grant variances for certain situations, like if there's just going to be an economic gain from the system, if it's meant to fix an error, if there is an old septic system that we had identified and we're trying to bring it into compliance, we will not grant a variance for doing anything like that. And we can't grant a variance if there is a conforming OWTS option, which is not possible on this proposal and the next one we're going to be discussing shortly. Next slide, please. Again, this offsite physical feature, not conforming to setbacks. I understand that the 10-foot property line setback is a hard buffer. The offsite physical feature, a property line, would not be considered as such. So when considering property lines, as if you remember from last week, we retained the authority to grant property line setbacks. It's already paying dividends. This is why we retain the ability to reduce this property line setback. If we did not, we would have to go up to the state for every one of these variance processes. So a little positive control at the county level definitely helps. Next slide. Oh, thank you. This design does not have any groundwater or bedrock as a part of this. If I could back up a second, as a part of our submitted detailed professionally engineered plans, test pits have to be dug down to a maximum to a maximum depth of 8 feet. What we're trying to do is determine what kind of soil is under the ground. Groundwater and bedrock are two of those limiting features during our initial process that will completely end a development. If the bedrock is too shallow, because the water is going to hit it and run and go somewhere else and become somebody else's problem, or if there's groundwater, you could potentially contaminate that groundwater, which we don't want. So neither one of those were encountered during our test pit process. Our biggest setbacks are the 100-foot setback to any septic component from a privately drilled well. Town of Ophir doesn't have any privately drilled wells that I know of that has a town water system, so those setbacks do not apply. And no variance shall be issued for a higher level treatment system. We do not reduce the overall square footage of a septic system. If it's a higher level treatment, we're talking UV light treatment, advanced filtration systems, reverse osmosis. We're talking higher level, we're talking expensive, bespoke, high levels of maintenance and difficult to operate. And we do not grant those because we do not have the management oversight program. So that's why the proposal is going to be for a gravity system for where it's going. Next slide, please. Pretty self-explanatory.
Discuss.
Yeah. I think this refers to, it's not for economic gain. The applicant is building a single family residence, SFR as a primary location. It's not a second home. It's not a rental unit or anything like that. Next slide, please. We recommend approval of the requested variance to allow installation of a safely operating and permitted septic system by San Miguel County to enable single-family residence construction on this particular parcel. I want to reiterate that every variance request we do is to the location. I have the luxury of treating every septic system as a custom system. We process 30 to 35 permits a year, and we go through this process very infrequently because of how detailed we need to be in considering it as an individual request. I want to just reiterate that again. That's my boilerplate approval. And I think I have a sample motion of approval. I think that's my last slide, Megan. At this time, I wanted to open it up to Mr. Croak and anything he wants to share. And then if there's any questions for him or me, we're available. Thank you.
You, Kevin, it's look, unless the commissioners have questions right now for Kevin.
I just have a comment based on a conversation I had with Kevin about these applications and learned that the engineering firm has gone maybe what would be considered above and beyond with specs and construction materials for this, and that, right, they're PVC lining, or sorry if I'm not using the.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gleason, for the reminder. Kind of where this conversation started was the applicants requested, hey, if we put this PVC liner, which is essentially, think about a pond liner, a non-permeable barrier that you can put around a soil treatment area to further contain any wastewater. Their initial request to us was, hey, if we put in this PVC liner, can we move inside that 10-foot buffer closer to those property lines to install the system? Through discussions with the state and our review engineer, the answer was no. Even though the answer was no, they're still going to move forward, my best understanding, with a PVC liner. It's an unnecessary but an added layer of safety and security to the system. I just wanted to acknowledge that this is not going to be a bare minimum system. There are additional measures being taken to make sure it's as safe as it can be within our current regulations. Thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Gleason. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
I do have then sort of a technical question.
Sure.
I'm surprised that you only have to do the test 8 feet down. How like deep is the tank? It's, oh no, this is just a field. It's not the tank. That's somewhere else. Okay. And then you also mentioned, I think it was in this application, that there's like a pan under something, a 4-foot something. No, I can't find it now in my notes.
So a couple.
And another like
A
bells.
couple clarifying points specifically about those test pits. We dig to a depth of 8 feet because the deepest that we can put an infiltrator or where the wastewater starts to go into the soil, the deepest we can put it is at 4 feet.
Okay.
The reason we dig down to 8 feet, because we need to know at a maximum what is 4 feet under the start of that infiltration.
Sure.
So when we're grading soil, the engineer and myself, when we're grading soil, we're plugging it into this little Excel spreadsheet, and it's determining a square footage based on the type of soil that we find within those test pits.
And does that play into the findings for groundwater and bedrock material, and that's why
Absolutely.
the pit is necessary?
Absolutely. Additionally, we do have conditions in the permits we issue that says if any indication during excavation goes against what our test pits indicated, you have to contact the county for an adjustment. Because the reality is, as people familiar with the earth moving business, you don't know what's underground until you dig the hole.
Right.
So digging two holes is merely an indicator to start the process. And when the ground starts getting ripped, that's a confirmation of that initial indication. Did that answer your question,
Yes,
Commissioner Brown?
thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I'm walking all over you, man.
Questions? Seamus, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I'll just say it's been great working with Kevin, public health staff. I think to zoom out in a little high level here, I work in affordable housing, as you all probably know, commissioners at least. And I think there's an interesting perspective to be had of how hard it is to build right now. And this is not totally reflective of that, but it is kind of this concept of there are plenty of houses in Ophir who 10 years ago faced much less regulations, who have perfectly functional septic systems and aren't encountering the challenges that we are today. And I think you'll hear from Slater, who's also pursuing a similar approval of a variance. But generally, I think it's worth looking at these higher level systems of what, like, why, when you have a very capable staff, obviously, then it's easier to say, well, why do we need to bring this to the commissioners? I think if in a location maybe where there's less capable staff and engineers, that multiple engineers that are reviewing and affirming these plans, then I know we have state systems in place, but I just want to echo for advocacy to future projects, like we want to make things as simple as possible for the folks who are trying to build houses to remain in the area. And I think these things can get really complicated and hard, and thankfully have great assistance with staff and expertise, but just wanted to voice that and appreciate your time in hearing this process.
Thanks, Seamus. I understand your point, and for better or for worse, we are bound by state statute, and as Kevin mentioned, we have to have this meeting, we have to either vote for or against. There's no way around it. If I took the next step from your comments, it would be wise for us to advocate at the state level to relax some of these restrictions so that it is a little more streamlined while still protecting the public health. And that's a balance that is constant and continual. And if we're gonna err, I'd rather have you have to spend a little extra money and time and make sure we get it right than have someone cowboy it. So I'm glad you're here and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, that said, if there are steps in our process that you felt were onerous or, onerous, I guess is the right word, then we would probably love to hear that, because you are absolutely right. We also want to streamline housing that is safe and all that. So I'd be happy to sit with you afterwards and talk through what you went through and see if there's anything we can do. And I'm sure Kevin would as well, if you haven't already.
I've got notes.
Yeah, okay.
Always have notes, but
Yeah.
point well made, Commissioner Brown. I think there's always things to improve on. Both the applicants today have been very patient with our time. But the point still stands. I think we can always do better. And like Mr. Croak is saying, I think the next application, it's really big of him that's where his concern is at. He wants the next application to go easier.
Yeah.
So it speaks a lot to this application specifically. So we appreciate it.
Any other questions for Mr. Croak?
No, but I do have a question about the motion. Is it right time for that?
Let's open the floor to the public first, and then we'll get to the motion if we are ready, when we're ready. So I will open this public hearing, and if anybody would care to comment, please raise your hand on the Zoom. We will unmute you. Don't see any hands up in the room, so we'll give the Zoom just a moment. I do see a hand up. Mr. Wopchonsky, I'll ask you to unmute. Actually, Megan will do that so we don't cross wires. Is it working, John? Are you getting the invite? You're a co-host.
Here we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Thanks. Sorry, I tried to put my camera on just to be part of the meeting, and I guess you guys don't allow that during a meeting. So my name's John Wintropski. I'm the Ophir Town Manager. I'm here representing the town. The town has the right-of-way, the street right next to the property. And our major concern is we have a water main. Our drinking water runs underneath that street. Kevin and I have had a few chats on it. He's been great, kind of explaining it to me. I guess I have two questions. The first is there somebody who can tell me that this new setback, 2 feet plus a liner, is equal to or better than the 10 feet, which is the standard? I need to know that for my assurance that our drinking water system is going to be protected.
Sounds like a question that the engineers have addressed, but perhaps Kevin wants to tackle that one since he's been the one who's the expert in the field and also signing off from the county standpoint that the answer is yes. Let's give Kevin an opportunity to respond.
While Kevin's puzzling over that, John, the edge of the STA, how far is it from it's a pipe, right, that carries the drinking water under the street?
Yes.
How far is it?
I could not locate the pipe exactly. I haven't done any locate, so I don't know what that distance is. But it is somewhere within the right of way. Probably under the shoulder area, not under the street itself.
Let's call it proximate.
Yeah, I mean, again, Kevin's looking at the answer or considering how to respond, but it would seem to me that if there was going to be some kind of contamination of the water from the STA, it would be because the pipe breaks.
Oh, it's possible that we have infiltration, and right now, as far as I know, we don't have any septic fields leaking onto our pipes. We do have old pipes. We are trying to replace them as much as possible. A lot of it is I just don't have the expertise to know what kind of protection does a pipe need. I mean, we have asbestos concrete pipes up there. I don't believe they're porous to the point where groundwater can get in, but I don't know that for sure. I don't know. We are okay with this if we can be assured that what's being proposed is at least as good as or better than what is existing.
Got it, John. I've got a couple hands up now. I'm going to start with Jared Biggs and then I'll go to Seamus Crook.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, John. Since I have a little bit of experience with this in my past, as long as there is positive pressure on the inside of your AC pipes, you are not going to have infiltration. That's kind of a standard in when you get your water operator certs is to maintain positive pressure in any break situation so you do not have contamination issues. I think in this scenario, we would have to admit if there was a break and you have to excavate and the soil treatment area is particularly saturated, right? You may have decontamination problems when you try to get your pipe back together.
Or you may need to decontaminate the pipe.
You always have to
Yeah.
decontaminate your pipe when you are putting that back together. But again, you would have to double down in this scenario because you're close to a soil treatment area. I can't say, I don't think that in any case you are gonna have kind of wastewater saturate your AC pipe and go into your drinking water supply. Again, your drinking water supply has positive pressure to push that out and would maintain that positive pressure. So,
And I'll just add one more note on the specific context of this lot. I know that the neighbor to the west, the Spracklings, built their house in, I believe, 2019. And when they excavated and did the water tap, it's one of the newer replaced water lines. It wasn't, I believe, one of the old concrete asbestos pipes. And so that was reassuring to me because yeah, it's nice to have new infrastructure in front, but also from what I understand, the water line was located the setback, the property line, there's about roughly 10 to 15 feet of right of way before the street. And I believe the water line is right directly adjacent to the street, but that's just what I heard from the previous build.
Can you say that again? Go ahead. The right of way is I'm just thinking,
So
is there,
there's-
you think there's 10 or 15 feet between where your leach field would be and the pipe? Is that what you're getting at?
More like 17 because of the 2 feet setback inside my property line.
That is my understanding as well. Sorry, I appreciate your patience while I scrabble through my notes here. I'm looking at the technical justification from the engineer right now, promoting the use of a pond liner. John, it doesn't say specifically whether or not the use of this setback, new setback with the PVC pond liner would be any more, equal, or less safe than the existing 10-foot setback. This does, in the technical justification, it meets all Regulation 43 code requirements. And one of our code requirements is not injurious to public health. So with all the information that we've gathered and presented today, I do not have a concrete answer to your question specifically about the safety of the water line. Positive pressure that Mr. Biggs mentioned, and then the right-of-way buffer to the actual water line itself. The table 7.1 in regulation 43 does have a 10-foot setback from any existing utility or water line. So in this case, there would be a surplus of buffer between this proposal to the PVC liner, which again is an additional, not required, but great to have, and then another 10 feet to that setback to the water line. Is that a fair characterization, John?
Yeah, I think I get that. I mean,
Okay.
the fact that the engineers are willing to sign off on it tells me that they think it is safe. So,
That correct.
okay. And then just, you made a couple comments about 10 minutes ago. There was something about requiring the membrane and you said, no, you can't require it, or they wouldn't require it, or what did you mean by that?
So the initial request was it was a proposed PVC liner around the soil treatment area. And the request was to reduce the 10-foot property line setback with use of the PVC liner without going through the variance process. We determined through direct communication with the state and our review engineer that this is an additional thing that we can add on to the system, but it does not you can't go around the variance process just by putting in this liner around the system. It's not required. If anything, it's above and beyond than our minimum regulatory requirements, John.
Okay, thank you. And the other question I had may be more for the applicant, and I've talked to both Slater and Seamus about this. And when I talk with other people in Ophir about this, that this is an issue going on, for the county commissioners, we do all of our building code enforcement up here within Ophir. The only thing that we do is the only thing that the county does is the OWTS system, which we just don't have the expertise for. And we've been dealing with various variance requirements from people building in Ophir. As you know, we have a lot of small building lots up here. And what people have to do is figure out, they have their 5,000 square foot lot, and they have to figure out how to put in a residence, an OWTS system, and 2 parking spaces. And up to this point, people have made residences that have been small enough to be able to fit the other things on. And that's why we have a community up here of relatively small scale single family residences. The question I keep getting is, why don't people adjust the size of their residence to accommodate these variance needs? Why not just make your house 10 feet less?
I can try and answer at that, John, and this is coming from 7+ years on the board. We have had very similar requests from previous projects in Ophir for variances for OWTS. So in the not so distant past, this has been happening. This is not the first and probably won't be the last request. Part of the reason, I think, is that the state requirements continue to tighten up. And even though the technology continues to advance, the desire to maintain an overabundance of setback in order to make sure that there's no chance of contamination remains. And so, yes, an applicant could come to the conclusion that if they made a smaller house, they might be able to fit it all on without a variance, but it may be it still may be impossible. And it is really up to the person building the home and the community and the commissioners to try to find that right balance. But the state is continuing to require at least the same, if not increasing setbacks. And Kevin is nodding his head to back me up there, which makes me feel good.
I think that's a fair assessment, Commissioner Waring. I think another thing to keep in mind is that we do not permit one-bedroom systems. If you want to build a one-bedroom cabin, too bad, you have to have a two-bedroom system. So with that requirement, which allows for future flexibility, if you want to do an addition, add on a bedroom, put an ADU, connect it in the same system, whatever that combination is, our requirement of a minimum of a two-bedroom system it's can't go any smaller than that. So despite if you downsize the house to shrink down the building envelope itself, the septic system is either going to be the same size or a little bit larger. So I think when it comes to percentages, increasing the size of the building envelope in relation to increasing the size of the soil treatment area and the septic system, Commissioner Waring, like you said, I think that it's a balance between engaging with the state and trying to keep pace with these increasingly strict septic regulations that we're dealing with, and then making sure that when we're proposing a development, it's a house that you can build a family in, and you can rent out a room and you can build something there. And I don't think a one-bedroom cabin with a two-bedroom septic system is really the answer there. That's my personal opinion, but.
And I'll just echo that John, I think the code in Ophir has become increasingly restrictive in terms of building size already. And I don't know if that's a response to other, to the constituents you're hearing this from, but generally, 2,100 is the max square footage for a home under 5,000 square feet, and that includes no garage discount. So when you look at the vast majority of the houses that are already in Old Ophir, I would wager that they're at or above that amount, and that's pretty modest size when considering raising a family. But I think generally Ophir's code is already controlling for size as is, and as Kevin mentioned,
and this proposal is for a two-bedroom home, correct? Yeah. So it's the minimum.
John, does that answer your question sufficiently that you could convey that information to those folks that are curious?
It does. Thank you. I don't have anything else. The only thing I'll add is that we are proposing to do new water quality testing on the Howard Fork this summer. We haven't done it in the past. In particular for E. coli, we want to make sure that the OWTS systems in Ophir are working and are not damaging the Howard Fork and then into the San Miguel River. So if anybody in public health has any suggestions for us on testing or how we should do it, please let us know, but it's something that we are starting this year.
John, you are fortunate in that both Kevin and Grace are in the room, and they both put, at least Grace put pen to paper and made a note there. So I suspect that she will get in touch and give you what insight she has on E. coli testing. Excellent. I'd like to bring this back to the commissioners. Thank you, John. Do you have any other discussion or conversation, or are you, Mr. Biggs has his hand up?
Would you like to close public comment?
No, I'm gonna let flap in the gleams. Thank you for that reminder. Yes, I would like to close public comments since I have not seen any other hands up. And John, thank you for making time to join us today. Commissioners, can I get a motion, or do we have further questions?
I have a couple questions
Okay.
or a comment. First of all, Grace and Kevin, if you've are hearing about additional layers or expansion of OWTS regulation that you think is onerous, I hope you'll let us know, because we can work with our county associations on that kind of legislation. I mean, I just feel like we're getting more and more and more laws out of Denver, and I just don't know how necessary they all are. So, yeah.
I would just comment from a high level, not a deep in the weeds like Kevin is. I would say that the regulations themselves are very appropriate as they are right now statewide. And those Appendix A adoptions that we made last week are those flexibilities right within different counties, which we've taken up with the whatever, the
Regulation 43.
yeah, Reg 43. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. But I think that what we're seeing here is really the land that's left in our county, at least on the east end, is extremely complex, tiny and restrictive. So it's more what's left and available to be developed doesn't really fit easily within the scope of what we now know within regulation is the safest, most appropriate
Okay.
process.
So you don't feel
Yeah.
like this is over-regulated?
I do not,
Okay, that's reassuring.
And I think.
but I would say
another-
processes, we can always streamline those.
Another
Yeah.
component and is that lots of know for a small and in bad old days, people would build a little cabin and an outhouse and call it good. And now we're having the same size lots, but we're trying to put modern America with safe ways to dispose of on the same size parcel.
We've
Understood.
come a long way. I would say the other concerning thing is for some of the older homes that are in these areas, as their septic systems age and need to be replaced, they will not be in compliance because some of them are mystery holes. And that is not appropriate for the
Mm.
future. So there's gonna be more complex problems coming to our future. Yeah.
Yeah, I've lived in a couple of those breezy Ophir cabins and dealt with their septic systems. And I know you're jumping through some hoops here to be compliant, but in the future, you'll thank yourself with your investment.
This one question on the motion, 0.3, it says that applicants and future owners must certify that the OWTS will be regularly inspected and maintained to ensure optimal operation. Do we have any way of ensuring compliance on that certifying? Is there actually like an affidavit they sign, or Grace is shaking her head no?
In the past, sorry, Commissioner Wayne.
You go, this is your bailiwick.
In the past, we've signed what we call O&M for operations and maintenance agreements. I don't know what flavor of legal document those are, but essentially, if there is a variance, to give a quick example without disclosing information, we recently permitted a vault. So just the septic tank with no leach field. There's a meter in there. When it gets 75% full, an alarm goes off and then it gets emptied out. As a part of permitting that, we wrote an operations and maintenance agreement saying that you or whoever owns this specific utility system, this wastewater system, are beholden to the alarm system, the pumping schedule. It is your responsibility to operate and maintain this unit appropriately.
So is that what you're suggesting we would do here for Mr. Croak?
I would disagree. I would
Please.
say for the vault example, that's a great example. And that's a unique situation that's not self-maintained, where this
you.
system that the two applicants have are very standard leach fields. It's backed by engineering certification. So I wasn't expecting us to have a maintenance agreement, but more they adhere to the general standards, unless I'm misunderstanding. Because I'm just thinking from 2 variances ago where it was
Yeah.
a basic one, we did not do this. But for the vault, it was a vault is not a traditional
Right.
style, and it has very limited use.
And I'll add that it's in the owner's best interest to maintain that system because it's much easier to pump it when it's due than it is to fix it when it's broken. And so acknowledging that we don't have a legal agreement, but there is a vested interest by each property owner to maintain their system so that they don't incur a huge sudden expense. It kind of takes care of itself.
Well, that's sort of what I'm thinking, and I don't love passing, motions that we aren't actually going to follow up on, so I'm wondering if we even need 0.3.
Grace,
Unless we're gonna have him sign something, then I mean, maybe the word certify is wrong, or.
I think we can either omit or change the language to Commissioner Wang's point, just to maintain and operate the system as primary residence.
Can you pull the motion back?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Why don't we say, so,
Where-
okay, applicant is right now, it says applicants and future owners must certify that the OWTS will be regularly inspected and maintained. Maybe we say applicants and future owners acknowledge that it is their responsibility to regularly inspect and, does that make sense?
That's on,
Okay.
if you want that, it's good. That's on you.
That sounds great.
Okay.
This is nodding and smiling. I think we've
Okay.
got a good
We
compromise.
just pull back a little regulation.
Nobody wants a dysfunctional septic. system.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gleason, are you content with that adjustment?
Absolutely.
All right, can I
Yes.
get a motion?
Yes, I will. I move to approve the request for an on-site treatment system variance for Seamus Croak based on the finding that the proposed variance is consistent with section 25-10-105 of the Colorado On-Site Wastewater Treatment Systems Act and Regulation 43 of the San Miguel County Board of Health with the following conditions. The variance approval and approved OWTS design will be recorded with the San Miguel County Clerk and Recorder and attached to the property deed. This variance is granted specific to this property, lots 5 and 6. Block M, Ophir, parcel ID 477-935-311-021 for use by a future 2-bedroom residence. And the applicant and future owners acknowledge that the OWTS will be regularly inspected and maintained to ensure optimal operation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote.
Aye.
Aye.
As well, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Seamus. And we are going to swing quickly into our next item, which is similar. This is item 7B, consideration of the variance for an on-site waste treatment system designed for lot 1 and 2, block Q, Ophir, with the parcel ID number, which is also long. Slater Applin is the applicant, and Jenny remains with us. The format will be very similar. Before we start, Kevin, that one took us 45 minutes. Commissioners need to be loading into vehicles in 45 minutes. Do we need to follow each step of the presentation verbatim, or are we able to?
I can do wave tops, Commissioner.
All right. And is this application significantly different than the previous in engineering or proximity to water lines or other hardships that we don't know about?
No.
Okay.
If there are any notable differences, I'll cover them quickly in my presentation.
Great. And Mr. Woptronsky remains with us, which is great.
Excellent.
All right, listen in, John. Here we go. Kevin.
All right, the Redux. This is a very similar application. PVC liner was the impetus for the variance application. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. David Belode of Uncompahgre Engineering was the design engineer, and it was the same review engineer, Drew Ruderman of Buckhorn Engineering. We're still on West Ophir. Significant differences from the first presentation is that the adjacent properties are largely right-of-ways to the town of Ophir, not adjacent residences. Next slide, please. A little zoom in, gets you some more fidelity on the next image. Next slide, please. This is probably the most important image. The location of the southwest corner of the property, that's going to be where the septic system leach field will be located, tucked back into that corner. Slater provided this image and he measured the distances off 38 and change, and then a little under 20 from the actual roadway itself. And this would be the distances of town of Ophir right of way to the applicant's property, to that southwest corner. So as we go through, please remember this image. Next slide, please. Proposal to reduce the setback from 10 feet to 2 feet for the soil treatment area of this on-site wastewater treatment system. Next slide, please. Here's the conceptual plan. I want to draw your attention to the southwest corner of the property, which you've just seen on that image with the red notations. Again, to fit all the components that are required by the town of Ophir and the state and county of San Miguel for septic systems. This is deemed by the engineer and the review engineer to be the option. And the option that is deemed to be the best, requires a setback, and that's why we're here today. Next slide, please. Public noticing requirements were met to include a lot of certified letters sent out 500 feet. At this time, do we have any public comment from your neighbors or members of the town?
No public comment aside from communication I've had with John, concerning, as Kevin was saying, the right of way to Ophir is, being most affected by the setback infringement.
Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The review standards remain unchanged from the previous presentation. Can I skip through these slides so we
Yes.
can skip a little bit forward? Is that great?
Sure.
Next slide, please. Same requirements, same review standards. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. Again, this system is deemed not to be injurious to public health, to the town of Ophir. Groundwater, bedrock layers are not constraints in this design. PVC liner will be added, which is in excess of minimum regulatory requirements for a system. Setback request is from 10 feet to 2 feet. And again, this is going to be a primary residence, a single family residence, culmination of a lot of hard work to get here. Next slide, please. We recommend approval for the same reasons as the last presentation, verbatim.
Thank you, Mr. Cheney. Commissioners, any questions on this application for Mr. Cheney?
I feel like I got schooled on the last one, so I'm pretty up to speed.
Make it the expedited process.
Yeah,
Davis really went through the wall first on this.
that's right.
So
Do you have any additional information that you would care to share with the board?
I think underlining what Kevin had discussed and that was a particular photo that I wanted to annotate, is showing like how might this reduction in setback affect public health, and really showing that there's a lot of land around the property lot line. And so even with that eight feet in reduction of the setback, there's 20 feet to the west and 40 feet to the south of undevelopable right away between kind of the road and the water line is right there. We know that located is at that right in the culvert just to the east of Bobtail Street that's going north south.
So 20 feet from the property
20 feet
line
from the
or
property
19
line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
plus the 2-foot buffer from his property line included
Right.
in the request.
And the pond liner.
Thank you for that clarification. Any questions for Mr. Slater? All right, I'll open the floor to the public. Mr. Webtronsky, do you have any comments on this one in particular, or did it make sense to you the way that you got your hand up? Let's unmute you. Go ahead, please.
Thanks, they let me unmute. Just the same concerns, like you said, it's the same situation, so same concerns, and if they're addressed, that's fine with me.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, commissioners, unless we have further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Why don't you close that public hearing?
Oh, thank you. I keep leaving that dangling.
You're good.
I'm closing the public comment in 3, 2, 1. All right.
And I would like to note that the third point on this sample motion would have to be changed as well.
Thank you for that reminder, Kevin.
I'd be happy to take this one, if I may. I move to approve the request for an on-site treatment system variance for Slater Applet based on the finding that the proposed variance is consistent with section 25-10-105 of the Colorado On-Site Wastewater Treatment Systems Act and regulation 43 of the San Miguel County Board of Health with the following conditions. 1, the variance approval and approved OWTS design will be recorded with the San Miguel County Clerk and Recorder and attached to the property deed. This variance is granted specific to this property, lots 1 and 2, block Q, Ophir, parcel ID 477-9353-06015 for use by a future 2-bedroom residence. The applicant and future owners acknowledge that the OWTS will be regularly inspected and maintained to ensure optimal operation.
I second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
As well, motion carries unanimously. Kevin, Slater, thank you both very much for your time.
Thanks.
Appreciate you coming in and just as we offered to Kevin, if you have any suggestions for improving our end of the process, please let Kevin know he is receptive to feedback and he's really making a change.
The whole process, as echoing what Seamus was saying, like within the county and communicating with Kevin has been like succinct. It's made sense and
Music
saying,
to our ears.
yeah.
Thank you very much and good luck with your
Yeah.
project.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, thanks.
Nice job, Kevin.
Of course.
Thank you, Grace.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Right, commissioners, we're gonna continue moving on to item 8A.
Oh, Slater, sorry.
Which was consideration of the termination of the settlement agreement concerning deed restricted property known as Lot 35B, AKA 528 Society Drive in Lawson Hill subdivision. And Jared Biggs, our deputy county manager, is here to walk us through this.
And thank you, Commissioner, and Maura might speak up wherever I misspeak. She's good at correcting me when I'm wrong. So this item in front of you today is in regard to a settlement agreement we had signed with Matthew Legault and Leah Cristodoro after they received a notice of violation for their deed restriction in 2024. And so this was an agreement to settle the issues at that point in time. Since that time, they have submitted their quarterly reports, and they have just been kind of per the agreement, doing everything that they've needed to do. As we know, we went through the reversion process for a number of properties. This property did change in that reversion process from the 2023 covenant back to the 2016 covenant. So this settlement agreement references a covenant that no longer applies to that property. And at this point, Ms. Cristodoro has been fortunate to, I guess, get under contract for a property in Telluride, and so is wanting to remove herself from this property and this settlement agreement and move away and do something different. And so we have drafted up the settlement agreement. I think everybody is generally in agreement that it will work for what we need. And Mr. Legault will then have to execute a 2016 covenant when the title transfers to him solely instead of in joint ownership with Ms. Christopher. So that is the long and short.
Thank you, Mr. Biggs. Commissioners, questions on the situation as outlined?
No, just to clarify that we have not drafted a settlement agreement, we've drafted a release from the settlement agreement. So they will just be on the 2016 covenant.
Correct.
Thanks.
And I heard you say very clearly, Jared, that Mr. Legault is in agreement with this, that we are doing what is right for his partner, right for him, right for us. This is not causing anybody's feathers to him.
They requested this, and just looking at the terms of the settlement agreement, it really is premised on the 2023 covenant and the continuing owner compliance requirements for that covenant in particular, which is no longer relevant.
Thank you. We'd like to stay relevant, I think.
We work to stay relevant.
We work to stay relevant. All right, commissioners, unless you have further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
No further questions for me.
All right. Maybe able to piece this one together from the agenda.
I can do it.
Go ahead.
I move to authorize the chair's signature on an agreement to terminate the 2024 settlement agreement for lot 35B, 528 Society Drive in the Lawson Hill subdivision.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, as well, motion carries again unanimously. We are on to item 8B, which is consideration by the Board of County Commissioners to accept a housing planning grant award from the Department of Local Affairs. Drea Ariza, our housing specialist, and Deputy County Manager Jared Biggs are here. Which one of you would care to go first?
I'll let Drea.
All right.
Let her rip.
I'll take over for a minute. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Drea Ariza, Housing Specialist.
So I did prepare a memo just outlining an update. We did come before you at the end of March, requesting your direction to submit that grant application to DOLA. Happy to report that we did get awarded. So that was also included in the agenda packet, and it is a boilerplate agreement, and it's a unilateral execution. So it'll go straight up the chain with DOLA. And so I'm here before you just to answer any questions. And then there is a motion to move forward with accepting that contract in the coming weeks.
I have absolutely no questions about the grant, accepting the grant. Yay, congratulations. I just am a little bit curious about our plans for your plans for the housing action plan.
That is a great question. I do have my next update on June 17th, so happy to kind of talk about timelines
Right.
at that time, if you're okay with that.
Commissioner Gleason, any thoughts?
Strong work getting this in and getting it approved.
Speaking of approved, can I get a motion?
Yes, somebody prepared for that.
I can
I
do
need a
that.
minute.
Oops.
On page 1 of the.
Okay. I am ready. I move to authorize the chair to accept the housing planning grant award from the Department of Local Affairs for purposes of San Miguel County's Housing Action Plan and to take all necessary steps to execute the grant agreement.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
As well, motion carries. Drea, I'm going to sign some documents and you get some money.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Appreciate your time. All right, commissioners, we have covered the agenda that we are intending to hear and tell you about, and we now are going to recess until 4 p.m. and we will reconvene in Placerville at the schoolhouse and host a community discussion with Placerville residents. Thank you all very much. Have a great afternoon. I'll see you down valley.